Welcome to the Alex Barth Show. I'm your host, Alex Barth. Tonight on the show, a special guest, Assistant General Manager of the Falmouth Commodores of the Cape Cod Baseball League, Brian Borders, plus former neck and anchor Jimmy Yeung joins us to talk what's been going on in the crazy world of sports over the last couple of weeks. But first, we have Brian Borders on the phone all the way from Falmouth, Massachusetts on beautiful Cape Cod. Brian, how you doing tonight?
Not too bad. You mentioned, Alex, beautiful Cape Cod. It's about 75, no humidity. Can't complain.
I'm hoping you went golfing today, if that's the case.
I did not. I was actually stuck at work all day.
Stuck at work. That's unfortunate. So Brian is in his second year now with the Commodores. For those of you who don't know, Cape Cod Baseball League is the premier summer collegiate baseball league in America. During the summer months, college baseball teams will send their players to developmental leagues like the Cape in order to improve their skills. It also gives scouts from the majors a great chance to see the up-and-coming talent. A lot of major leaguers have passed through the Cape. Couple last summer were taken very high in the draft. So, Brian, we're going to start with this. How does the Cape League find its players?
Well, it's ultimately just connections that the coaches with individual teams will make throughout the country. For example, we have a coach named Brad Stoll, who is a high school coach in Kansas. And he just has connections with all the Texas coaches, all the SEC coaches, things like that. And really what you're looking for is players that are going to be mature enough to be on their own in Cape Cod for an entire summer. So you make sure they have the proper makeup, things that you're looking for there. And then you make sure that they have the stats and the skill sets to go along with that makeup and make them viable options for the Cape.
So in terms of talking about that skill set, one of the big adjustments for the Cape is that it's the first time a lot of these guys are using wooden bats. Metal bats in college, a lot of other summer leagues use metal bats, but wooden bats on Cape Cod. What's that adjustment like from what you've heard maybe in the locker room from guys? Are they a fan of it? Are they against it? And how do they go about making the adjustment?
I mean, it's certainly less of an adjustment now than it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago when college baseball introduced the BB Core bat, which is a little bit less of an aluminum bat. It's a little bit more comparable to a wooden bat. But even still, it's a tough adjustment because this is the first time that these hitters are going to be out of their comfort zone, out of something that they've been doing since they were playing T-ball when they were maybe 5 years old. They're facing inside fastballs. They're facing sharper breaking balls, things like that. And for the first time ever, you can actually break your bat if you don't hit the ball on the barrel. But typically by the end of the summer, guys are going to like the wooden bat. They're going to like the style of play that it has because it makes them a better hitter. It forces them to really barrel up the ball more. And they know that they're eventually going to have to get used to it because if you want to play professional baseball, this is something that you have to do because metal bats, let's face it, they're not coming to professional baseball anytime soon.
So on the flip side, you've a lot of premier pitchers on the Cape, and because of the wooden bats, it is a bit of a pitcher's league. But we live in the age of Tommy John surgeries early and often, maybe as young as 15. Some guys will get 2 or 3, and kids are throwing maybe 100 innings in high school. The counts are getting up there. Every pitch you throw is one pitch closer to retirement. What brings these guys down to the Cape to throw these extra pitches, put the extra wear on their arm? How does the Cape League and the managers and even their colleges still convince these guys that it's worth it?
Well, I think it's just the flash, and you're in the limelight for the first time. You know, a lot of the smaller school guys are the ones that really have the opportunity to shine here, and they're the ones that you really see. You don't see a lot of the Vanderbilt pitchers here. You don't see a lot of the Florida pitchers here. You don't see a lot of like the Texas or USC arms here. It's smaller school guys that have the opportunity to show what they have and to show that they can face the top-end hitting talent and be able to succeed against that. And as far as the wear and tear that you mentioned, Alex, I mean, from what I've seen, I can't speak for all the teams, but from what I've seen, coaches are usually pretty good about being strict on pitch counts. They'll pull a guy after 5 innings if he's thrown 70 pitches through the first 5, just because the coaches are responsible for the players. They're responsible for their healthy return to their school coaches. And really what you're looking at is if a pitcher gets injured in the Cape League because you overuse him, that's a deteriorated relationship that you now have with the college coach. And as I mentioned earlier, coaches and the relationships that they have with programs, that's really where you get your players. So you can't risk injuring a pitcher to for your own benefit, because then you won't get any more players from that school or that college coach.
Now, you say that, but these are all very competitive guys down there, both players and coaches. Where's the balance between trying to win and making sure players are developing and staying healthy? How tough is it to toe that line?
It is tough, but luckily, every year in the Cape, you see each team has a great number, a great assortment of very talented arms. I know for us this summer in Falmouth, we have 3, 4, 5 guys that can throw in the mid-90s. So that makes it easy to really use one guy one night and then another guy the next night. We really have like a closer by committee this summer, just to speak on what you're going with. But we have a guy that comes in one night who's 93 to 95, and then he'll have maybe the next day off, and the other guy who's also 93 to 95 will come in. So you try and build up as talented of a pitching staff as you can, so that you don't risk overuse of these guys. And then you get to win, and you also get to preserve their arms.
So we know that the college players and their coach are looking for them to get better. What are the and there's major league scouts. I've been down there by the hordes. You can find them everywhere. What are major league scouts looking for when they go to a Cape League game?
I think it's ultimately different for both hitters and pitchers. I think for hitters, you're really looking for approach. Are they able to lay off bad pitches early in the count? Are they able to get ahead in the count, put themselves in positions to succeed? I think you're looking for consistency. If you're in a slump, can you get out of the slump? If you're going hot, can you keep it up? And then really you're looking for bat speed, because hand speed, bat speed, things like that, that's what really shows your development as a hitter. Are you going to be able to catch up to a late inning guy in the major leagues who's able to throw 99 miles an hour? Are you going to be able to adjust and hit a sharp slider or a sharp breaking ball? Bat speed tells a lot about a hitter's and the life that they have in their bat. And then for pitchers, from what I've heard, scouts are usually looking for, if you're attacking the strike zone early, it's so important for pitchers to get ahead at all levels. Whether you can win that 1-1 pitch and put the count in your favor to 1 and 2, which is obviously a giant advantage to you. And then they're obviously looking for stuff, fastball life, fastball velocity, things like that, how well you're able to mix in your off-speed pitches, how sharp they are. And then obviously for starters is the last thing, it's the velocity maintenance, how well you can maintain that velocity as you work into the deeper innings of your start. Are you going to be able to come out of the gate throwing 93, 95? And then are you going to be able to maintain that when you're in the 6th inning? Because obviously once you get into higher levels of professional baseball, if you start 93 to 95, that's pretty good. But if you're fading to 88 by the 5th inning, you're going to start to get beat up.
Thanks, Brian. And obviously a lot going on there. Sounds very complicated. It's why the Cape is great is it's for baseball fans of all levels. Whether you're a diehard or just a casual fan, you can really lock into the big stuff. You can just go watch a game. So one last question for anybody who is going down this summer to catch a game. I know last year you had quite a few guys drafted in the first round. Who are a couple names to look out for?
Well, I think if you're looking for next year for this upcoming 2017 draft class, I think you're looking at a guy named J.J. Schwartz, who plays for Yarmouth Dennis out of the University of Florida. He was supposed to be here last summer, didn't end up making the trip up, but he's a guy that you're looking at could be the potential number 1 overall pick next year. He puts up great numbers in college, so scouts were obviously really interested to see what he'd be doing with a wooden bat. And then for pitchers, I think the best prospect on the Cape for this upcoming draft is a guy named Peter Solomon. He plays for Harwich. He's out of Notre Dame. He's a mid-90s guy with excellent breaking stuff. And then for 2018, Falmouth actually has a guy named Brady Singer, also out of the University of Florida. Second-round draft pick out of high school. High 90s with a sharp slider and a good changeup. So he's another guy that could be looking at a high first-round pick, if not the number 1 overall pick in a couple of years.
Thank you very much. Brian Borders, Assistant General Manager of the Falmouth Commodores, joining us. Brian, thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course, and definitely I recommend going down to a Cape League game if you can, because there's a lot of purity in the Cape, and it's a great experience. As Jimmy Yeung now joins us, former NECA anchor, and so much of the sports world today is not pure. It's not fun for the whole family. You know, I was watching NFL Network the other day, and this was right when the Tom Brady suspension was handed out, and they had Chris Canty on the desk, Jamie Dukes, a couple other guys, and they went right to saying Tom Brady should take the suspension on the chin because of everything that's going on in this country. Now, I'm going to start by saying this. What happened in Dallas, the shootings in Minnesota, and I know there was another one, I'm blanking on the state, were horrible, terrible tragedies. There is a problem in our country, and we do need to fix it. That being said, saying that a professional athlete should not exercise his right to appeal suspension because of that is ridiculous. And if 2 weeks ago, if the appeal result had been handed down, I'm sure that they would have poo-pooed it then. This is just a reason. Is this new, Jimmy? You've been around this a long time. Is it new for the media to use cultural issues like this on the sports end to push their agenda?
Did you see the beginning of the ESPYs last night with the basketball players?
Yeah.
I thought it was very fascinating that they listed the names of the victims of the shootings, but didn't mention the victims of the shootings that were white policemen from Dallas. So, and it's not the first time that the black man has used sports as a platform. And by the way, I encourage it. You know, in this country, the sports figures everywhere are looked up to. For whatever reason, they are looked up to. They have influence. They have the platform. But that was probably the wrong message that was sent out last night on the ESPYs, because they blew it. It was like, okay, we get that there were a lot of black kids killed, but so are there white policemen. And there's still more white people being killed by policemen than black people right now. So it's a very difficult time, Alex.
Yep.
It's interesting you bring that up, because we need a little politics, get on my little filibuster here. I am amazed, actually, that in this country, we have for the first time, we have an African-American president, and race relations have gone backwards. Backwards to the point in the 60s, when I grew up, they were that bad. And none of us who are white people can identify and have any idea what it's like to be a black man in this country driving around and being stopped by the police just because the police might see and suspect something. So I don't know. It is what it is. It's still the best country on earth, and the fact that it allows us to talk about things like this is one of the things that makes it so great.
Now, let me ask you this. Jamie Dukes, Chris Canty, and those who are talking about using the shooting in Dallas and everything and what's going on as an excuse for Brady needing to drop his suspension. Now, they're employed by the NFL Network, controlled by the NFL, which is the corporation that is engaged in this lawsuit with Tom Brady. How much of that maybe is the NFL using its own power to try to help their case in the court of public opinion? Obviously, I know these guys have their opinions on what's going on in the country, but is it their responsibility to leave that behind when they go to the desk? Should it affect what they say when they go to the desk? And
in theory, it shouldn't, Alex, but they're human. And yes, you're right. Their paychecks are coming from the league. The league has been orchestrating this from the very first moment that the Indianapolis Colts brought a somewhat deflated football to the attention of the officials in that game. And the thing that amazes me about this whole thing is no one's taken on the officials. To me, when you start a game, I don't care if it's Little League, I don't care if it's soccer, I don't care what. The officials are in control of that game. And they so botched this up that their own league, which pays them, is covering up any screw up that they had. And, of course, blaming it on the Patriots, because everybody hates the Patriots.
So do you think maybe some of that could be a conflict of interest, because the two main sources covering the story are the NFL, who's engaged in the lawsuit with Brady, and ESPN, who gets a lot of money from the NFL?
Money drives everything in this country.
Speaking of that, we had big news in the NBA last week. Kevin Durant chooses to sign with the Golden State Warriors, and people were saying, oh, he wanted to form a super team, this and that. Now, there's a tweet came out. Adrian Wojnarowski retweeted somebody who had said a big reason Durant signed in Golden State was his people, his camp, his business managers were worried about the sale of his sneakers and his jerseys, and that a new team and a new market would help inflate that. Now, to me, I've always been very much, it's not the name on the back of the jersey, it's the name on the front. Now it seems like it's neither name, it's about the logo on your shoes. Is this a step backwards?
No, I think if anything, it just exposes the capitalist nature of sport in this country. And by the way, he has every right to do what he's doing, and he's getting more money from Nike than he is from his own team. It isn't about putting fannies in the seats anymore in football. It's about the television money, because it's money. It's eyeballs. It's all about the money. It always will be about the money as long as we have a free capitalist society. That's the way I look at it.
You mentioned the television ratings. The reason that this all got so out of control is because the NBA and the Players Association had so much trouble deciding what was going to happen when the cap went up because of the television ratings. Do you see this as a failure by the NBA owners and the NBA Players Association to negotiate what happened with the salary cap and what's going on right now in free agency?
You know what? I don't think that there is a Players Association other than baseball and Marvin Miller should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame because of this, that has any semblance of a union to begin with. The fact that the Supreme Court might look at this as a union collective bargaining agreement versus an employer is fascinating to me unto itself. I don't really think that they're going to waste their time on this. It is amazing, however, that it does come down to, can we just put this to bed? And Judge Ginsburg, all you have to do is say, we're not going to hear it, and it all goes away. Brady takes his 4 games, and we can move on with football and see if Jimmy Garoppolo can play.
And I know part of the thing that I love about sports so much is that it can be a distraction from what's going on in the real world. It can be something to just look at for 10 minutes and get your mind off of things. But it seems like now, between the NBA and the NFL and everything that's going on, there is no more line. Sports is very much becoming the real world.
It always has been a microcosm of what goes on in society. It's always been a platform for civil rights. I mean, they were talking about the 1968 Olympics. Heard a great caller, by the way, who went to school with Bob Beamon. I don't know if you guys know who Bob Beamon was, but the 1968 Olympics in Mexico City, at altitude, he broke the long jump record by 2.5 feet.
Wow.
Think about it. Not 2.5 inches, 2.5 feet, okay? And he wasn't thought of as a great long jumper. He just had the perfect jump at the perfect time. Anyway, to make a long story short, Jesse Owens and John Carlos actually talked about what Carlos wanted to do by raising his fist, his black gloved fist to salute black power. And he tried to convince him not to on the basis of the fact that, look, just do your job. Perform. That's what Jesse Owens did in front of Hitler in the 1936 Olympics. And needless to say, 68 was a turning point in our society, a lot of it to, again, attention to racial tension in this country and building on segregation, trying to get rid of segregation. And, it's a fascinating time to be a sports fan in America because you are getting a law degree, you're getting a business education, and you're getting a sociological perspective too.
The other day you had Browns running back Isaiah Crowell tweeted out a picture of somebody slashing a police officer's throat. And he did end up apologizing for it, and his first game check will go to the Dallas Fallen Officers Fund. But the Cleveland Police Department basically came out and said, we don't need to supply the Browns with police officers for your game. And then all of a sudden everybody's looking into, can they do this? How does it work? How do professional sports teams get security? And it really is just, I mean, when you have a city's police department, one of the biggest cities in the country, going after an NFL team, you really have to wonder where that line is at this point.
Yeah, well, it gets blurred all the time. And unfortunately, you follow the money and it'll give you reasons why.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Alex Ball Show. I'd like to thank Jimmy Yeung for coming on, sharing his opinions. Brian Borders for joining us on the phone to talk a little Cape League baseball. Always a treat, Jimmy. I know you're a big Cape League guy.
Yes, I spent a lot of time on Cape Cod.
Definitely make it down Harwich Mariners White House Field, get the root beer shake. I recommend it. For the Alex Barth Show, for Jimmy and Brian, I am the one and only Alex Barth. Hey, you could be right here in this seat. Visit MindsetGo.com or email info@MindsetGo.com to find out more. Thanks for watching.